If there is something that almost nobody disputes, it is that vaccination is the only possible way out of the pandemic, in addition to the best economic policy that any country can choose. After the commercialization of the vaccines and the start of vaccination in the first quarter, in April and May, some countries stood out in a timely manner. Thus, by the end of May, only a handful of states of a certain size had managed to reach 50% of the population with at least one dose delivered: Israel, United Arab Emirates, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Mongolia, USA, Canada, Uruguay, Chile and, within Europe, Malta, the United Kingdom, Hungary and Iceland. The world as a whole barely reached 11% of its population vaccinated with at least one dose. At the end of June, a significant advance is detected, as shown in Figure 1. In the world total, there are already 24% of the vaccinated population, although the figure reflects the statistical outcrop of China, which on June 10 reported its data, which raised the global figure by 8 points. But even so, the advance is significant, particularly in the European Union, which in June reached an average of 51% of its population vaccinated with at least one dose, 12 points higher than at the end of May, with 39% of the population. At the end of June, there were countless countries with more than 50% of the population vaccinated, with at least one dose. Among them, a good part of the EU members, with the exception of many of the eastern countries, such as Bulgaria, Romania, the three Baltics, Slovakia, Slovenia, Poland, the Czech Republic and Greece, although the latter three exceeded 45% of the population. In reality, within the EU only 2 member states deserve a vaccination failure: Bulgaria, 12%, and Romania, 24%, both countries with significant migratory movements towards Spain. In the rest of the world, the slowness in vaccination of successful countries in managing the pandemic continues to be surprising, probably because they do not feel the urgency to vaccinate in order to reactivate their economies. Its policies, close to the COVID-0 model, had already allowed domestic economic activity to reopen more than a year ago. Thus, for example, Vietnam, 4% of vaccinated, New Zealand, 15%, Australia, 24%, Japan, 25%, and China itself, 43%. More worrying is the limited vaccination in Africa, which ended May with 1.9% of the population with at least one dose and has barely risen to 2.7% at the end of June. Despite the relatively low incidence of COVID-19 on the African continent, completing your vaccination should be a global priority starting in the fall.